Who's a business type person or business process? Cool. Oh, that's not too bad. I was worried you're all going to be techies and all the other stuff in it. Okay. So I was actually going to give this talk a year ago. I was building a product on top of an API, which is essentially it's a service. It's a company opens up their data, opens up their services. You can request information from them, put it into a nice interface, much simpler interface usually than Google and so on. Create a nice product and sell it. Do something that the original company isn't doing, a little bit of innovation and so on. But it didn't work. And there are certain things about using other people's APIs, other people's services that you have to be careful of. So I'll just tell you a little bit about what I was doing last year. So who knows about the Moo cards? Moo.com, have you seen them? They make very small, very trendy, funky little business cards like this. And essentially, their service is you go to the website, you put in your name, your address, email, so on, and then you pick out some pictures from Flickr, or you upload your own design, creates a massive PDF. You never see this all happens in the background. Prints it out, they cut it up, put it in a little box, deliver it anywhere in the world. You give them 15 euros, nice little business. Lots of people are using it. What they actually did was they created an API. So they opened up their printers to the rest of the world to create other businesses on. So we could create websites, create products and so on, various different software, and be able to print via them. So I was thinking, this is a nice idea. Essentially, they have the infrastructure. They're going to take the payments. They're going to do all the delivery. Basically, they'll put all the money up front. So we can build a product on top of this and make some money as well. So I thought, okay, what would people want to print? People go on Twitter, they favorite things. They go on Facebook and so on, they favorite things. They go on Flickr and they favorite things. So I thought, all I need to do, create a website, put a little box on the website, you put your information in, hit the button, off it goes, creates the massive PDF, Moo print it out, do the delivery, take the money, I get a little share of the money. So I thought, great. This was around about September. By the time I've done this, it'll be Christmas. Lots of people will be creating little Twitter cards, that kind of thing, buying them for friends. I'll have made a lot of money, and then the following Christmas, I'll be a millionaire. The fashion will have passed, and that'll be okay. I'll have made my money, I'll have got out. The reason I didn't give the presentation was because 2 weeks before, they then sent me an email saying, actually, we're going to withdraw the API. Boom. The entire service was withdrawn, so the whole business idea disappeared. And that's what you have to be careful of when using other people's APIs. So essentially, it's an interface onto other people's businesses. You use them every day. Some of you may have used Google Maps to come here. You may have typed in the directions from the address here to your own home. It would have given you a route. Essentially, that's using the Google Maps and Directions API. Now, we can build products on top of that as well. If you have a contact page on your website, your developers, they may put in the coordinates of your company. That'll pull in a map. People can move the map around, zoom in and out, and so on. So that's just a very simple example of how you can integrate someone else's service into your own website. It's not a product as such, but it's very common. And Google Maps is actually the most commonly used API. Twitter as well, there's a massive ecosystem of Twitter applications around. Some people, they do it for free, they don't make money, but then there are other companies like Seismic, like TweetDeck and so on, who are making an awful lot of money from either selling clients or doing the data mining on all the information that's passing through the products that they create. This was taken last year. When I went to look at this same page yesterday, there was 100 APIs. And this is just the Google stuff. So if you look at some of these, you've got analytics, finance, calendar, contacts, and spreadsheet. Now out of those, you can pull together a dashboard for a company. You can make a basic CRM. You don't have to install any software in the company. You just pull it all together. I don't think Google's going to go away. I don't think Google are going to pull their APIs. I certainly hope not. So you're on a fairly sound basis there. But rather than build a complex CRM, there are opportunities there to build something quite simple for mid-range customers. And you can do it very, very quickly as well, because you're relying on other people's infrastructure, and Google's is good. It's not just Google, though, of course. I've already mentioned Twitter and TweetDeck. So they have a whole range of products that they built on the Twitter API, which, to be honest, isn't exactly the most robust, but it's getting better. New York Times, they've also opened up their data. In this instance, they're actually using it themselves. So they have created a desktop version of the New York Times, which is free, but then if you want access to certain types of content, then you have to pay for a subscription. So basically, they're extending their reach. And also, all of the links will then continue back to the actual site, where they're getting more views on the site, they're increasing their advertising revenue, and so on. And generally, just to ask, does anyone know of any other APIs that are out there? Yahoo, that kind of thing? No? Okay. Government's in this as well. It's not to say you can't make money out of it, but large businesses have been doing this for about 10 years now. There's now a big movement, certainly in the States. The UK are opening up their data as well. So there are opportunities to create products that will analyze public data, and you can do consultancy off the back of that as well. So the real opportunities, as far as I see them, are to make simple products. There's a real movement towards small applications which do one thing and which do it very well. So people are opening up very, very large sets of data, like Google Analytics, that kind of thing. And generally, for most businesses, it's too complex. It requires costly consultants to analyze the data properly. But we can actually create very simple products that give a good overview of the basic information that you need. The other opportunities are in integrating data from Google, Yahoo, Reuters financial information, that kind of thing, into existing intranets, CRMs, products that you're maybe already building or using, so that there's not a massive change for the organizations there. They feel much more comfortable integrating something into an existing product that they use rather than replacing something entirely. And then internationalization, not really something I need to talk about. In Belgium, you understand the context of that quite well. But there are certainly new markets. So, for example, I doubt Yahoo will ever create an Icelandic interface for Flickr. But if someone was to create something simple, then they may get some traction there. By being involved with different APIs such as Google and Reuters, you can actually get some kickback in terms of a benefit, because you can create a very simple product. It can be branded with Reuters, and it makes your product look good. So, in terms of less is more, the first point that I made, this is Google Analytics. Now, to me, I look at this and actually, this is what I like doing. I like complex products. I like analyzing data and so on. So to me, I don't mind this. But for your average business owner, it's way too complex. There's too much going on. The menu's down the side. So many options, and this has just shown us a general overview. Now, because there is an API onto Google Analytics, a Belgian guy actually created this very simple widget. It sits on your desktop, pulls in the basic overview data that you need, and this one's actually free, but there are some other commercial products as well. So basically, he's taken a very complex data set and put it into a very basic product. In terms of the integration opportunities, again, you don't have to take whole data sets, just take something very, very simple. Just take the key information from Google Analytics or Google Financials and so on that your company's interested in, and integrate that simple piece. MailChimp, which is it's an email subscription service, a bulk email service. They have managed to integrate with Twitter and Facebook, and what they do is, because they have your subscribers' email addresses, they can go to Twitter, they can go to Facebook, and they can pull in the profile photos of all of the subscribers that are in your mailing list. And MailChimp customers really like this, because basically, as they're looking through their list, as they're segmenting their list and so on, they actually get to see what people look like, provided they've used a reasonably accurate profile photo. So by using a free API, MailChimp have improved their own product, and apparently customers really like it, because people sign up anonymously. Nowadays also, you're trying to take the minimum amount of information, just a basic email address, to make sure you get as many people signing up as possible, and now you can actually get to see their face, which helps a lot. This company is called Flowtown. They have gone a step further than that. So we see down here Netflix, the movie company, Twitter, LinkedIn, New York Times, Facebook. This one is Pandora, music service, Amazon, and Flickr. And what they do is they take a company's mailing list and they go to all of these services, pull in all the information they can find about the people, gender, age. They infer stuff from what films you rent on Netflix. They look at the type of things you're talking about on Facebook. They take accurate data, and then they also have algorithms to, again, infer other information about you. So they build up a very detailed profile of your customers. This has always been done to a certain extent in retail, but it's now very easy to do. It's the costs have almost been eliminated with services like this. So, yeah, we're in Belgium. You guys understand about localization and internationalization. So, once you've managed to make a product, a simple product, for example, that looks at analytics or looks at Google Financials and so on, where can you sell it? So there's an entire marketplace from Google, which is particularly aimed at the Google Apps ecosystem. Of course, there's Apple App Store and Android App Store, and there's now a move towards selling simple apps on actual desktops as well. So the next version of Apple is going to have an app store built in, so people are moving away from the choice of looking for software, downloading it, buying it, installing it, to actually just having the choices there in front of them. You click on it and it's installed for you. Again, I mean, you're paying. Amazon are going to be opening an Android store, and there's the new Chrome web store as well. So there are now lots and lots of channels for these new products built on APIs. That's technical. So, if you want to use an API, do you have to pay for it? Well, not all the time. The majority of them are actually free. Generally what they do is you'll have free access up to a certain limit. So you'll be able to ask for maybe 50,000 queries on a service each day. Once you get to the enterprise level, then you're going to go beyond that. So they'll generally charge you for that, so that this is how the providers are actually making the money, but you get a better level of service as well. What do they get from it? Well, you generally have to sign up, not so much for Google, but you generally have to sign up to actually use the APIs, so Reuters, for example. So essentially they're building a new customer base. With the case of the New York Times, then they're getting their monetized content into new areas, and also they have to basically be part of this conversations where it's linked up with social websites like Facebook and so on. So they know that they have to get their content in there. Collaboration. So for example, Reuters have an API which you can fire some text at, and then it will identify names of people, names of events, brands, those kinds of things, and it extracts it and it returns that information to you. So the more that is used, the better it gets. It's like Google Translate. You know, the more we use it, the better it gets, theoretically. Dominance. So if you want to use any Reuters APIs, you have to use their branding. As I said, personally, I see that as a good thing. So make sure that they're visible. And then there are some monopoly issues around the fact that Google harvests the data, Google provide the data to you, Google organize the data. If they also start to create all the products that analyze the data as well, then they've really covered off all the angles, and they have some monopoly issues there. So if they open up their data sets and allow for there to be a whole ecosystem of products around it, then at least it's there are other players in the market. And then of course there's the fact that the API providers work on a freemium model a lot of the time. So if you want a robust product, you know, with a service level agreement, and to go up to a certain number of queries, then you have to pay. So, what are the risks? Well, from my story at the beginning, where I was planning to build a product on Moo.com's API, and then they pulled it at 15 days notice, essentially you're utterly dependent on someone else's service. Now, I mean, of course, this exists in the real world. If you're selling someone else's product, they can go out of business, you lose your product, but you tend to have more product lines. When you're working with APIs, you tend to focus on one or two. Generally, at the lower level, you're not going to get a service level agreement, and we see this a lot in Twitter. So Twitter will just go down. If Twitter goes down, so do all the clients. Luckily, Twitter isn't actually important or mission critical to our lives, so it doesn't matter too much. Generally, it's not your data either. So if you, for example, if you're using someone's authentication service, so you can use Yahoo or Google to log people on, and there are certain benefits to that, but also you're not really getting to your customer data. So if the value in your business is in your customer data, then it's not necessarily an option for you. You're also heavily reliant on the fact that Google is going to introduce new features, Yahoo is going to introduce new features, whoever the provider is. So you kind of have to move forward at their pace of development. And because they're large enterprises, that won't necessarily be that fast. Also at the beginning I mentioned you can take someone's data and do something that they're not doing with it. You can have a completely different idea, do something innovative. Eventually, they will probably get to that point and introduce that feature as well, so you have to keep moving forward. You have to keep innovating as well, or have some other differentiator. Then you have to ask yourself, if the company disappears, if the API disappears, do you still have a business? And in most cases, that's not the case. So, if you are thinking of, if you are a business person, you're thinking about creating some new software products and you're not necessarily technical, this is the place to go. Programmable web lists all of the publicly available APIs, and there are thousands of them. Nice thing, it categorizes them. So identify your area of experience, find the category, and you'll see all of the APIs, whether they're publicly available, whether they're commercial, and also other products that use them as well. They call them mashups, but essentially they're products. So you'll get to see who else is doing other things in the field and get an idea around how you can actually use other people's data to create. I keep on saying simple products because I believe that's actually the best way to use APIs. People that create these massively scalable infrastructures aren't necessarily good at creating front-end products, so the smaller guys can create decent products on these large data sets. This first one, that was taken, that was a shot taken a year ago. So as you can see, Google Maps is the most frequently used, but Facebook aren't in there at all. But then this is one that I took just the other day, 3 days ago. It's only looking at the past 14 days of usage, but look who's there now. Facebook right at the top. I haven't a clue who Tropo are. Twitter, Flickr, YouTube, and Last.fm. So it's getting it's all social interfaces, social media interfaces. So if you are thinking of building a product on top of an API, then social is certainly the way to go. Again, this is for the technical people. You can go beyond the standard limits, you just have to register. So if there's anyone who is currently using Google APIs, then you might not know about this. It's fairly recent. It just lets you go above the publicly set limits. That's it. So if you have got any ideas for products that you'd like to discuss, then come and see me. Any questions?
Yes. One time, just to differentiate a little bit, because you're telling about little applications, a lot of APIs, that means a lot of developers. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of crap out there.
Yeah.
We're not building crap, I know, but how can we, if we're not building crap, differentiate ourselves in this market? And second, if we build something that's beautiful, because it's all public APIs, somebody can copy us very, very quickly.
Yeah, but okay, anything can be copied. If you're dealing with software on the web now, everything can be copied, and you have to deal with that. And that's why you have to keep, in my opinion, you have to keep simplifying and differentiate yourself on the basis of service. Yeah. Now, it doesn't have to be direct customer service, but service in terms of training, in terms of creating a learning system around the product as well. It gives additional insight and additional value. So, for example, I'm creating an analytics product, but it's not aimed at techies, so it's aimed at small business people who are in e-commerce. So I can also create blog materials around other issues that e-commerce people face. So payment system, recurring payment, that kind of thing, where to get the best deal. For me, so it's lateral, and also many products can exist within the same space because there's inertia, and also there's just the fact that the majority of people who go out and buy products aren't actually majority of people who are buying products aren't actually spending that much time researching them. So not for the simple $25 a month type product. Disagree.
Absolutely. We can discuss that offline.
I have a question about the marketplaces.
Yeah.
I know the Mac marketplace is very dependent on if it's allowed or not by Mac itself. But on the Google marketplace, is there how is you sell your product there and it's is the entire profit yours, or is it a share model with Google?
Yeah. Google will tell you it's free. Yeah, so you have a registration fee. This applies for the Android App Store as well. So you have an initial registration fee, and then they say it's free because basically they want the ecosystem to grow. With an Android app, let's say you're selling it at €3, which is an average price for an Android app. What they don't tell you is the charge goes through Google Checkout, and they take 95 cents. So in actual fact, it's the same as the Apple Store. There's a 30-35% margin there, which is what you have with the Google, with the Apple App Store. So
basically the same thing but in another package.
yeah, just spiced up differently. But yeah, Google takes upfront license fees largely because they want to avoid too much crap going in there. So I mean, certainly with the Android marketplace, it was free initially. Then they started to charge €5 and so on. But and it's more expensive now. I think is it 50 or 95? It's gone up. Basically, they're using an initial barrier of registration to try and filter out some of the crap. But yeah, the marketplace for apps is a good place to be because you can create stuff that can plug into other Google Apps applications as well. Okay, right, Leo says we have to go.